So American Riviera Orchard, which of course is Meghan's lifestyle brand, she's run afoul of the US Patent Office because they say she can't trademark American Riviera.
What's interesting is that there isn't a CEO, there's no chief executive of the As Ever brand to actually develop her products. So there she is with all these ideas, but in the end it all boils down to herself as the brand.
So they chose, within a couple of days of Princess Catherine's news being revealed, to reveal to us that we were getting American Riviera Orchard. Really classy timing from Montecito there. Thanks a lot, guys.
But Harry and Meghan currently will do anything for a few quid. You think at some point he would want to come back? Maybe that will be the breakdown of his marriage.
You see, to actually launch a brand with all these different products, you need a huge amount of money. You need tens of millions of dollars. And what we're seeing is that she can't find a financial backer. So I think what's happened is that she's launched these products in the hope that somebody will come along and say, there's money in this, let's support Meghan and her As Ever brand. But who is Meghan? And that is the problem. And therefore, who is the brand? So what we're really seeing is a sort of forlorn, ridiculous woman trying terribly, terribly hard.
And so is she going to struggle to sell this brand when we don't feel like we've seen who she truly is yet?
Meghan Markle is making last-minute changes to her highly anticipated lifestyle brand, formerly known as American Riviera Orchard.
What makes me laugh is that they launch a brand, they always launch a brand, and then they change the name every time
Yeah.
they seem to do it. There's lack of consistency, there's lack of planning. They press the launch button before they even got the fuel in the rocket.
It's called As Ever. As Ever essentially means as it's always been. And if you followed me since 2014 with the TIG, you know I've always loved cooking and crafting and gardening. This is what I do.
Something is off. Not slightly off, not maybe we're reading too much into this off. The kind of off that makes royal watchers, business analysts, and even Meghan's own supporters stop and ask, wait, what exactly is happening here? Because on the surface, American Riviera Orchard looks like everything Meghan Markle has been building toward. A lifestyle brand, a clean aesthetic, a name that whispers of sun-drenched coastlines and effortless wealth, Instagram already buzzing, trademark applications filed across candles, jams, home goods, and more, a carefully curated launch that got people talking almost immediately. If you want more deep dives like this, make sure to subscribe to Royal Archives. But Tom Bower, the royal biographer who has spent years tracking the financial and personal decisions of the Sussex household, didn't look at that launch and see ambition. He looked at it and saw a warning sign, and the specific detail he pointed to is one that most people scrolled and right past. Meghan launched the brand before hiring a CEO. Read that again. She announced American Riviera Orchard to the world, built the Instagram, filed the trademarks, started generating the buzz, and only then began interviewing candidates to actually run the company.
And what's interesting is that there isn't a CEO, there's no chief executive of the As Ever brand.
That's not how businesses are built. That's not how Goop was built. That's not how any serious lifestyle brand gets off the ground. So the question Bower and others started asking wasn't just, will this succeed? The question was, what is this actually for? Because here's where the story takes a turn. When you strip away the aesthetic, the neutral tones, the artisan jars, the Montecito sensibility, what you're left with is a brand that appears to have been designed to generate attention first and infrastructure second. And in the world of celebrity business ventures, that order of operations has a very specific track record. Some online discussions have wasted no time pointing this out. Critics noted that the CEO search happening after the public launch suggests the brand may be more about Meghan's image than any serious commercial operation. Others were blunter, suggesting the entire thing is a platform in disguise, a way to stay relevant, a way to stay visible, without Netflix cameras, without a podcast, without a memoir, and whether that reading is fair or not. One uncomfortable parallel kept surfacing. Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, a woman who, decades ago, was roundly mocked, even by members of the royal family, for attaching her title to slimming tips, posh teas, and a juicer that retailed for £50. Vulgar, they called her, shop-soiled, the kind of language that made headlines and damaged reputations. The difference? Sarah was always scrupulously polite about the royal family. She never burned the bridge she was standing on. And even then, it took years to shake that reputation. Meghan is doing something similar, but the bridge situation is considerably more complicated. Tom Bower's piece in the Daily Mail didn't bury the lead. He drew the comparison directly, and then went further.
Meghan Markle, we read today, is going to be charging 1,700 quid for a meet and greet. That's Fergie 2.0, isn't it?
Oh, worse.
Down that path.
His argument wasn't just that the brand looked opportunistic. It was that ignoring it, brushing it off as harmless celebrity noise, could be a mistake. Because unlike Sarah Ferguson peddling tea bags in the 90s, Meghan Markle is doing this while the Sussex name is still legally, publicly, and emotionally entangled with the most scrutinized royal family on the planet. And then there's the name itself, American Riviera Orchard. Across social media, one question kept coming up. What does that even mean? One viewer called it a retirement center. Another compared it to a gated community in Florida. It sounds expensive and vague in equal measure. And some branding experts were quick to point out that vague names work when the product is undeniable. When the product is still being figured out, vague names just raise more questions. But here's what's raising eyebrows beyond the name, beyond the CEO search, beyond the aesthetics. The trademarks. The list of trademark applications filed under American Riviera Orchard is extensive. Candles, jams, home goods, tableware, dog accessories. It reads less like a focused brand strategy and more like someone trying to cover every possible direction before committing to one. And in the business world, that kind of broad filing at launch can signal one of two things: either extraordinary ambition backed by real infrastructure, or a holding pattern while the actual strategy gets worked out. Given that the CEO search is still ongoing, observers are drawing their own conclusions about which one this is. And that's before we even get to the comparison that nobody in Meghan's camp wants to talk about. The brand that American Riviera Orchard most closely resembles, according to people who've looked at both, isn't Goop. It's something called Flamingo Estate. A Los Angeles-based lifestyle brand started during lockdown by a stylist named Richard Christensen. Farm deliveries. Beautiful packaging. An aspirational aesthetic built around slow living and organic abundance. Unconfirmed reports have circulated that Meghan was once interested in going into business with Christensen directly. That didn't happen. Now she's doing her own version. And Flamingo Estate, for the record, is doing extremely well. So is this imitation, inspiration, or something more calculated than either? That's the question Tom Bower is really asking. Not whether Meghan can sell candles, but whether this entire operation, the launch, the timing, the vague branding, the missing CIO, is the beginning of something real, or the beginning of something else entirely. Because there's one detail about this brand that almost everyone has missed. And once you hear it, the whole picture starts to look very different. Here's the detail that changes everything. Meghan Markle didn't just launch a lifestyle brand. She launched a lifestyle brand while the royal family, the institution her entire public identity is still built around, is quietly navigating one of its most fragile moments in decades. King Charles, in active cancer treatment. The Princess of Wales, chemotherapy. Two of the most beloved figures in the monarchy, both fighting serious illness at the same time. The public mood around the royal family right now is not cynicism. It's not fatigue, it's grief. Real, raw, protective grief. And into that moment, Meghan drops a brand. The timing alone has critics asking questions, not about whether it was intentional, but about whether anyone in the Sussex camp stopped to consider how it would land. Because across social media, one observation kept surfacing, that while William and Catherine were managing a cancer diagnosis with extraordinary dignity, and while King Charles was pushing through treatment to keep working, the Sussex response. to all of it was a carefully curated Instagram grid and a trademark filing.
Princess Catherine is deeply upset with American Riviera Orchard, Meghan and Harry's brand.
That's where things stop making sense for a lot of people. Tom Bower's warning wasn't really about candles or jam. It was about perception, about what it looks like when one branch of a family is quietly falling apart under genuine hardship, and the other branch is launching a premium lifestyle brand with a vague name and no CEO. And here's the part that gets uncomfortable. The royal family has spent decades, centuries really, building what Bower calls Britain's most important brand. Not a product, not a lifestyle aesthetic. A living, breathing institution that generates billions in tourism, diplomacy, and cultural capital every single year. It survives because of continuity, because of sacrifice, because of people like Princess Anne doing 8 engagements in 2 days in Scotland at over 70 years old. With no cameras invited, no fanfare requested, that's the brand, quiet, consistent, unshakable. American Riviera Orchard is the opposite of all of that. It's loud before it has anything to say. It's visible before it has anything to sell. And it carries the Sussex name. A name that is, whether Meghan intends it or not, permanently linked to the institution she and Harry very publicly walked away from. Some observers have been blunt about it. The concern isn't that she'll fail. The concern is that she'll succeed. And that success will be built entirely on the back of a connection she has spent years publicly distancing herself from. Every interview that mentions the Duchess of Sussex's new brand is doing exactly what Sarah Ferguson did with her teas and her juicer, using proximity to the crown as the engine. The difference is Sarah never wrote a Netflix series about how the crown had wronged her first. And that's the tension Bower is pointing at. Not the jam, not the candles, the contradiction. The gap between the narrative Meghan has told about her royal life, painful, damaging, worth walking away from, and the commercial reality that her entire brand value still flows directly from that same life. There's been growing chatter in business circles about whether American Riviera Orchard can survive without that royal connection. Strip away the Duchess title, strip away the Sussex name, strip away Montecito and what it signals about proximity to a certain world. What's left? A lifestyle brand with no CEO, a vague name, and a very long trademark application. That might be enough. Gwyneth Paltrow built Goop from a newsletter and sheer force of personality. Richard Christensen built Flamingo Estate from a lockdown delivery service. It's been done before, but Goop never relied on drama with the British monarchy to keep it in the headlines, and Flamingo Estate never needed a Netflix deal to stay afloat. The question hanging over American Riviera Orchard isn't whether Meghan can sell things. She probably can. The question is what happens to the brand when the Sussex story, the separations, the interviews, the legal rows, the silence from Kensington Palace eventually stops generating headlines. Because right now, that story is the product. And if Tom Bower is right, if this brand is less about orchards and more about keeping the Sussex name commercially viable, then the people who should be most concerned aren't royal commentators. They're the investors. The potential CEO candidates sitting across from Meghan in those interviews right now, the partners and retailers who will eventually have to decide whether American Riviera Orchard is a real business or a very expensive way of staying in the conversation. The brand launched with a whisper and a very polished Instagram post. The trademarks are filed, the buzz is real, but the infrastructure still being hired, the strategy still being shaped, the long-term vision still somehow unclear. And that, more than anything else Tom Bower has written about the Sussexes, is what's really raising eyebrows, not what American Riviera Orchard is, but what it's supposed to become. And whether the woman building it has thought that far ahead, or whether the launch itself was always the point, that question doesn't have an answer yet. But it will, and when it does, Royal Archives will be the first place you hear about it. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what comes next.